reality therapist perception.
Welcome back to Reactivity TV. Amy and I are here to talk about and give our therapist reactions to the first episode of the final season of Succession.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. We've been looking forward to this season. We're here. We've made it. Big, deep breath, though. Because episode 1 was pretty packed with stuff.
You thought so?
Well, for a Succession episode, I know when we did our recap, we're like, does anything really happen? But I feel like it did a good job of kind of catching us up and on what's been happening since Italy and whatnot. We got a pretty good idea of what the landscape has been. And then we just saw, the usual Roy family stuff go down.
No, yeah, that's so true. Exactly. So what were you seeing?
Well, quite a bit. I do maintain that the siblings are so inept and do not know how to run a business. And that's not what their motivations are. And I'm not going to talk about the siblings, but just wanted to also point out that Roman had said that Shiv just wanted to screw over Tom and Kendall wanted to screw over the dad. And he was the only one that wanted to set up a business. And you know what? That's why Roman's my favorite. Anyway, who I really want.
Nail on the head of you and I talking in our last Reactivity TV that none of them actually want this, that it's all about their dad. I mean, we said it's all about their dad, but yes, I think Tom plays a part in this for Shiv, but also Roman just gets all the stars.
You know what? Our therapist takes, they're pretty good. But who I really wanted to talk about, who for me was the star of this episode, was Logan Roy. And I just, watching his performance was a mix of infuriating and also really heartbreaking. And, my biggest takeaway and sort of assessment of what's going on is that Logan is really dealing with his mortality. He's later in life. He's had a significant health scare. He's about to make a huge deal with his business. So a lot of transitions have happened. A lot of transitions are upcoming, and his kids aren't anywhere to be found. I mean, Connor's around, but that's a whole other mess. But Logan is really isolated. His wife is shopping indefinitely in Italy. So he's pretty alone. And we see him really grappling with his aloneness, his anxiety, his frustration throughout the episode. We see him when really anxious, waiting for Nan to get back to him about the deal, that what does he do? He needs to stir up and churn up some drama. He needs aggression, and he asks people to roast them, which was a trap because we know Logan does not get roasted. He roasts people. And so it was just watching a dog with a bone, the way that he kind of went after Greg. And it was very resourceful of Logan, but you could just see in the way that he was engaging, it soothed him to engage in that kind of dynamic, that is so comfortable for him. It gave him in this, when we're anxious, it's often due to a lack of control. And so he got himself in a power seat to feel more control. And so I really liked us seeing that. And then I also thought it was really interesting seeing him at the diner with his bodyguard and asking these big questions about life. What do you think happens after after our life ends? Asking about just people and humanity. And it really seemed like here's a guy that really doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about these things. And here he is really thinking about them, maybe for the first time. And in my mind, I was watching as a viewer, I was like, Logan, are you okay? Are you okay right now? But I just saw him grappling with, again, the anxiety, mortality throughout the whole episode. And for me, that was kind of a foreshadowing that I don't think Logan is getting out of the season alive.
Well, and it's so interesting how he got to that point or how he's gotten to that point where maybe he's beginning to accept his mortality. And as opposed to the other seasons where, I mean, it starts off with him in the first season. What does he have, a heart attack or something?
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
A stroke, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it was, yeah, he had a stroke, and then he just sort of was like losing it a bit, but he wasn't there yet at all. There were all of these outside sources thinking like, we got to start thinking about when Logan's not here anymore, and he was not there. And it's interesting now that he's in a position where he could actually lose his business. I think he was actually worried in this episode, and he was coupling that with, well, if I lose this, then what else is there? What else is there for me? And actually started to think about his death.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it will be really interesting. I was thinking about our adult children episode of Wishing You Well, and how we talked a lot about how the way to shift dynamics in a family is that at least one person's got to make a change. And often those changes look like boundaries. And we saw the kids put up a boundary to around Logan and contacting him on his birthday. And I don't know that that's ever happened before, but I was just kind of tracking all of the pressure points that Logan was experiencing throughout the episode. And of course, we kind of see him in this not explosion. I mean, we've seen Logan explosions throughout the series, but in this this frustration and with his kids around them essentially going up against him. And I don't think he could call it winning, but they did. They won the bid anyway.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, that he was finally at this point where he doesn't have one kid come. I mean, well, besides Connor, he doesn't have his core 3 children who he really relies on for this feeling of power around him. He doesn't have them. And that was a boundary that they put up. And that was a shock to him, probably.
Oh, yeah. 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 So, yeah, I'm always interested to see, I think Logan actually might also be a favorite character of mine, because I think he's so well played. And I'm really interested to see how this shapes up for him throughout the season. But what about you? What did you notice?
Well, you said you weren't going to talk about the siblings, and I definitely want to talk about the siblings. I had to rewatch a clip from the last season after watching this episode, just to confirm what I was thinking. So at the beginning of this first episode of this new season, Shiv gets a call from Tom, or calls Tom, and finds out about him meeting up with
Naomi Pierce.
Yeah. I don't want to get names wrong here. So she finds out about him meeting up with Naomi Pierce. And when she gets off the call, she tells her brothers, and she's clearly upset by it. I know that we learned that throughout the time between Italy and them being in LA, that they're in this trial separation thing. But she does tell her brothers, and they try to maybe console her in a way. It's very fleeting. And it's something that in real life and in a show, I mean, for anybody going through something and learning something that really affects them, you need support, you need help, and you need time. And time is non-existent for these siblings. They are so uncomfortable with feelings and with any feeling other than anger. And so, yeah, this is just really uncomfortable territory for them. And I mean, I think it's Shiv that actually ends up redirecting them all out of this. And they just go back and try to figure out this bid situation. And in the clip that I wanted to rewatch, because I was like, oh, they've done this before. And it was when Kendall had confessed to his siblings that what had happened at the wedding with the waiter dying. And you saw Shiv put her arm on him. Roman was clearly uncomfortable, and he kept cracking jokes. And when Shiv left to take a call to take a call. Of all times to take a call, this is not the time to take a call. She leaves to take a call, and Roman says, "Oh, thanks for leaving me here with all these feelings." And so they made it very obvious. And then again, Shiv redirects them all and says, like, "I'm sorry, this is not the right time," but then takes them out, and then they start scheming to try to figure out what they're going to do with their dad. So again, it's the same thing. It's just, this is real uncomfortable. Let's go back to what we know, and let's go back to what is comfortable.
Yes.
And that's how we solve this and make this better. Because I don't like this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Shiv's like conflict avoidance or discomfort avoidance was so strong in this episode, but what a good callback to last season, because you're right. Like, they do try, like there was in that scene in the season that you're talking about, I think Roman had asked Tellus, like, can we give our sister a minute? I was like, like maybe Catherine and I were wrong.
Yeah, maybe they're changing.
But I mean, there was an attempt there, but they really don't know how to engage or how to relate in that way. And again, it's not surprising, like we talked about in our recap, given who their parents are. Doesn't seem like Logan is well versed in giving kind of emotional support or comfort. Doesn't seem like their mother is either. So no wonder they don't know what this looks like. It's never really been modeled for them. We also see in their romantic relationships, they don't really do a whole lot of that. Roman has his own intimacy issues. Shiv, I'm sure we'll talk about Shiv and Tom again. And then Kendall is like, it's really hard for him to attach and engage with others. And so it's no wonder they can't do it together either. Yeah.
So we saw them again doing their thing.
They do their thing. I know. The funniest part was like when Shiv came in from having that call, and she's like, grabs a bottle of sparkling water and she's chugging it. And she's like, I'm fine. It's like, okay. Very believable. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yes, Shiv and Tom, you're right in that. I mean, we see Shiv get so avoidant, and I mean, Tom is too. Clearly, their relationship has had issues for a long time. And that just continues during this episode. And one thing that I want to point out is like, she all of a sudden just declares, well, I'm getting a divorce. And
you know why, right?
Well, because of the business deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to hear your take on it. Like, it didn't, her declaration of divorce didn't feel genuine. Like, it didn't actually seem like what she wanted, right? To Tom, when he,
whether or not
in the moment.
Right. I mean, whether or not it's what she actually emotionally wants, like, and I don't even know if she actually wants to be with Tom. It's just such a confusing. You're right. Like, her decision was made for her other motives. Mm-hmm. Those are more important right now. Those are always more important. Yeah.
Right. Her priorities are definitely not her marriage. That's not included. But I know you had some thoughts about the way they engaged in this, like, conversation. Can we call it that? About the ending of their marriage.
At the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really interesting. And it was almost like the first time their relationship had a moment of relief and peace. Mm-hmm. That's what I found anyway. I don't know what you saw, but it was like they both breathed for the first time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In letting it all go.
Yeah. And in that they were able to find like some tenderness. And that's something we've really never seen. Like they bicker a lot, or like Tom's at her beck and call, or like, and it really felt like that scene of them like laying on the bed together, like kind of like fingers, like dancing near each other. It was like, oh my God, this is actually the most intimate we've seen them, like truly intimate. And it's at the ending of their marriage.
Yeah. Which I think is actually pretty accurate sometimes, that couples going through splitting up or getting divorced, that sometimes at the end of it, there is that level of tenderness that wasn't able to be there when you're fighting over the same thing that you've been fighting over for months or years. Mm-hmm. And it's just a very interesting thing to see when you can finally have empathy for, finally have compassion for mm-hmm. this person that was your partner, that when they were your partner, you didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your take on, so Tom says to her essentially, like, I feel like we should talk. I want to explain why I did what I did, basically. And Shiv is saying, like, no, I don't think that's good for me. Like, what did you think was going on there for Shiv? Because I saw it, I watched it twice, and I had two different thoughts each time.
I want to hear yours.
Well, the first time I heard it was like, I don't want to hear it because my decision's already made. Like, this isn't a conversation. Like, it doesn't matter. And then when I watched it again through this maybe lens of conflict or discomfort avoidance, I was thinking like, oh no, like I can't tolerate like because they haven't talked about it since like they've never talked about this huge betrayal that Tom enacted at the end of last season. That's wild to me. And so now Tom opens the door to talk about it. And so my read the second time around was like, no, Shiv just like can't tolerate the discomfort of all the feelings that will probably come up on this. It's probably easier for her to cut out and leave.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it's a combination of the two. It's like, I don't want to hear it I don't want to hear it because I've made my decision, and I don't want to hear it because hearing it would be way too hard. Mm-hmm. Hearing it means I have to not only push aside what I've been feeling this whole time, but also think about what else I could possibly be feeling. And we know that she doesn't do that. That is the opposite of Shiv.
Yeah, that's her thing.
Self-reflect and look inward.
Yeah, I don't think they got that modeled for them very much either. Yeah. Do you think they'll actually go through with it? Do you think they actually will end their marriage?
Well, if our predictions are correct from our last episode, no.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. There's a part of me that like doesn't see it happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I could see them having that moment that we saw and then slipping right back into what they usually do. And then maybe really enjoying that mm-hmm. and really liking it and hating it at the same time, but not wanting to do anything different. And
yeah. That'll be interesting. I did watch like this season on Succession, season 4, and it looks like, you know, we're going to see some things that I'm excited to see how they play out. Yeah. Do we know how many episodes are? Is it 8?
I think it's 10 total.
10. Okay. All right. So we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. We'll come back and do that.
Yes. Yeah. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on Succession, season 4, episode 1, as well as The Bachelor that just wrapped up this week. Also, Love is Blind, season 4 is out. All sorts of good TV is out. So let us know what else you want us to talk about. We love to give our therapist takes on all things TV and movies.